Junior Yearling Sow Division, heat number 1. Entry number 22 is a big-bodied, deep-sided female that really has a ton of arch and curvature to her rib. We appreciate that boldness of spring from forerib on back to her hind rib, as well as her depth of flank. She too seems to be really wide and open from her pins and gives us a good amount of width of base as she tracks away from us from that standpoint. I might make her a little more elevated at the point of the shoulder. She kind of wants to run downhill for me, maybe than what's ideal. So if we can maybe elevate her probably at her pastern set and give her just a little bit more height at the point of the shoulder to balance her up. But a high quality female, I think that's decent within structure, really good for her volume and breed characteristics today. Entry 23, the solid black appearing female, is maybe a little bit finer in her bone work, and ideally I might change her from her stifle to hawk and from hawk to the ground and give her a little more correctness, I think, to her rear leg set. She wants to kind of pivot those rear legs maybe a little more than what's desirable. We might want to change that about her from that perspective. She too is really moderate about that frame size and gives us a good amount of depth of body and power there. I might give her just a little more extension and elevation in order to balance her up. She too maybe could be a little more elevated there on the front end to balance that one up from a profile. But it looks like a fairly athletic female that gets out there and moves pretty flexible. I might change just the design of those rear legs on her today. Thank you. Entry number 24 is the black and white spotted entry, and I think once again another big-sided, big-fronted individual. She's got tons of thickness and power up over the top of those front shoulders, over the top of her forehead spread as well. I mean, ideally I might change her ear set to be a little more correct, I think, in my opinion. We need to get her to get out a little bit more there within motion there on that video in order to see how well she can really move for me, but certainly a big-bodied entry that does a good job. I think when she tracks away from me, I'd like to open her up with more width of base and give her a little bit more power and correctness as she goes away today. Entry 25 is a heavier condition, easier fleshing female. I think she maybe pushes a little more condition than I would prefer at this stage of the game for her age and her maturity pattern. I would like to smooth her up and balance her a little bit more. She's extremely, I guess, over-conditioned in some areas, so it makes it a little more difficult for her. And the reason why we are concerned about that when it comes time to have a litter of pigs, it might be more difficult. They're slightly over-conditioned as well. So I think ideally, though, she does have a good amount of body shape to her. She's got a good amount of width of base as she tracks away with some good structure and some soundness there to her. Ideally, I just want to balance her up, and to do so, I probably need to lose some of that fat cover to make it a little more balanced from that perspective today. Entry number 26, more predominantly white with some black spots. Really has a big old foot and heel on this hog. It looks like it's big and rugged in its bone and that circumference of bone. We appreciate that about them. I might square that one up a little bit there on the front feet and legs. It wants to toe out just slightly on those front feet. Need to kind of square them up if I could. I do appreciate a lot of that depth of body and power that she possesses. Really big and thick and bold in her overall kind in that design too. And once again, I appreciate that width and thickness and stoutness she's got working for her. I might square up just a little bit to make her just a little bit prettier if I could from the front 1/3. Entry 27 is the black gilt with a little bit of a white belt. A female here within this class, I think, once again, really gives us a good amount of structure and width of base and dimension there to her. Really big and deep within that depth of body as well. I think, once again, she best combines some volume and structure to the highest degree. At the same point in time, we might change her a little bit there, how she handles those front feet and legs, but certainly a female that's got a lot of potential there to her. A lot of fairly good correctness and stoutness there as well. Entry 28, kind of the sandier appearing female, I think once again is another deep-sided, deep-bodied entry. She balances up maybe nicer and compared to some of those contemporaries in that class from her head and blended into those front shoulders. We appreciate that about her, and we appreciate her boldness and depth of body and brute style potential that she possesses. She doesn't really want to get out here and move too easily for our video, so it does make it a little more difficult to analyze that one from her structure, but she appears to be fairly sound at the same time. Entry number 29, kind of the red appearing pig. Once again, a little bit of the ginger characteristic. The gilt, when she comes away from me, I need to maybe square her up with a little bit more correctness. She kind of wants to taper those rear legs in a little more than what we prefer, but certainly a nice, moderately designed, deep-bodied entry. A hog that's got a ton of product and thickness there to her, big and bold up over her top shape at the same point in time. I just would like to give her some more squareness to match that with the base, to match her width that she has from her hooks and her pins on top, on down. So I think once again, a high quality one, just needs a little bit more extension, a little bit more squareness underneath. Entry number 30, kind of the tricolor is what we call that in the show pig world. Pig that's got some red and black and white there. Certainly, once again, really a big chested entry. You can tell that big and thick up over the top of that head and that forehead on this hog. Really big and durable there within structure, and at the same point in time has a good amount of circumference of bone and stoutness there. A good structure up underneath this hog at the same point in time. I might blend this one in just a little smoother on the lower portion of that, tying in that jowl and that neck into that, but certainly a hog that's got tons of width and chest and carries that fairly well from a structural standpoint. Entry number 31, kind of the curly-haired, red-colored hog. I think once again, looks like they get out here and move fairly free and ease. Certainly has some athleticism there too at the same point in time. Once again, she too is really big and deep within her depth of body, really massive in her overall thickness and stoutness there to her. Really appreciate the thickness that she has up on top to match that within her rib shape at the same point in time. She's fairly sound in structure, gives us a good volume amount of depth there at the same point in time from that standpoint. She may be just a nickel too heavy in her condition to make her real pretty and balance her up, but certainly an excellent female, I think, that has a lot of good to her today. Thank you. Junior Yearling Sow, Heat 2. Entry number 32 is a high quality female that best combines structure and volume to the highest degree, and more specifically, she stands down really good on her rear leg structure, really has a good amount of width of base there to her. She's also square there on her front feet and legs coming towards you, and balances up fairly well. I think for a female with a little bit bigger in her size, she maybe could be just a little bit better. I think she's slightly heavier in her condition, which makes her just a little more ill-balanced, but certainly she is a good high-quality female for structure and volume, and put together in a complete type of package. A really nice female, I think, within this class. Entry number 33 is another high-quality female that we discussed. I think, once again, best combined structure and volume and femininity there to the highest degree, and really represents those breed characteristics to the highest of her ability and standpoint. I really appreciate how square this female is coming towards me and going away, and at the same time, too, offers us a ton of volume and power there at the same point in time. If I want to get picky with her, I might change her a little bit there on her rear pastern. She's slightly weak there at that standpoint, but a high quality female that's got a good amount of balance and volume and structure and complete package that really puts it together quite well for this class. Entry 34. Once again, is another deep-bodied, broody appearing type of a female. It's got a good amount of arch and curvature of rib shape and dimension over her top. When this hog goes away from me, that's where I need to change this one. It wants to track in a little narrow and not quite as sound and correct there on the rear legs going away. We would prefer to square this hog up if I could, make it a little bit better on how it handles itself in coordination off of those rear leg structure in order to give her a little more longevity, I think, from that standpoint. She's got tons of power and body there to her. I might just make her sounder within her structure and make her just a little more balanced up today. Entry 35 is another high quality structured female. We appreciate that with the skeleton and with the base she possesses coming at you and going away. I think, once again, she maybe is just a little over conditioned, which hurts her balance, doesn't make her quite as attractive from a side view, but certainly she's got a good amount of structure, a good amount of durability there to her as well. I think we talk about, that head and that neck and that setting. I think she's got a good amount of breed characteristic working there for her with the the ear placement of where she's at. Does a good job there as well. It's two well-positioned wattles at the same point in time, really opened up within her chest floor from that point of view. I just think, once again, if she wasn't quite so maybe heavy in her condition, she'd balance up a little bit better today in the class. Entry 36, I think, once again, a little bit smaller in the stature, maybe a little bit earlier in that maturity pattern and compared to the contemporaries here within that class. This ginger spotted female, it looks like she's fairly sound in her structure and can get out here and move and motor quite well. I would like to give her just a little more extension and elevation to make her more balanced. She seems to be real short-bodied and real short in her overall kind. But for a little bit more longevity, I'd like her to be just a bit bigger in her kind. But certainly one that's got some athleticism and soundness there to her. I just need to make her more balanced today. Thank you. Entry 37 is a wide base, wide tracking female, really opened up at her pin set on down and carries that through, and we appreciate that about her. Really big and deep within her chest floor at the same point in time. I need to see her move a little bit better, I think, within the video to evaluate her structure, specifically on the front 1/3, but certainly a female that gives us a good amount of volume and body and stands down with a decent amount of squareness there to her. I think, once again, if we could maybe balance her up a little bit there with her condition in her body to make her a little more uniform, we would appreciate that about that. She seems to be a little front heavy at this point in time, but certainly a high quality female that's done a good job. Entry number 38 is by far another sound structured entry within this grouping. You can tell she takes a big old stride off of those rear legs and a good amount of depth of body and power there to her at that same standpoint. Similar to some of the other entries in this class, maybe she's slightly over conditioned. I would prefer to balance her up a little bit better by taking a little bit of that condition off. But once again, another one that best combines some structure and some volume and some durability in a complete type of package. I certainly think she does that and works her way towards the top end of this class today. Entry 39 is once again another sound structured entry. When she comes towards me within her chest, I would like to open her up with a little more width on her chest floor and her front feet and legs coming towards me. She's really good with as far as her structure goes and adequate there with how she's moving out here within motion. She once again could be just a little more balanced, I think, when we talk about with the condition and muscle mass in the back to match a little more of the front from a side view, but certainly another one that's got a good amount of durability there to her. Very, very good with her athleticism. I just want to open her up with a little more power underneath to do that, to balance up with that lower rib as well. Entry number 40 is maybe a little bit smaller in pounds of performance compared to the others within this class, but a hog that once again gives us a good amount of depth of body and arch and curvature of rib shape and dimension. I think this hog needs to be wider base as it's coming away from me and wider chested as it's coming towards me. It just needs more time to mature, and additionally needs more time to put some more muscle shape and dimension from behind to balance that hog up. It certainly is good with his depth of body. We appreciate that femininity up to her head and her neck, and she appears to be very, very athletic. I just need to see more muscle mass to balance that hog up as it continues to mature. For your selection here for your junior yearling sow, between your champion divisions in Heat 1 and Heat 2 would be exhibitor entry number 33. I think for selection of your champion, there's one with just a little bit more style and balance and completeness, really best combined structure and volume and eye appeal together in a complete package, and because of that, entry number 33 will be your champion within this division. For selection for your reserve champion, we then would pull in the second in that heat, which would be entry 32. And 32, once again, follows that type and kind as 33. Maybe isn't quite as attractive there from a balance standpoint, but is another high quality female that really has a good amount of squareness and structure and volume, and those things put together with some breed characteristics. I think she follows that champion quite well for type and kind. Today, she's going to be a reserve champion. So third and honorable mention within this group will be the winner of heat number 1, which is entry number 30. Once again, another high quality female. We appreciate her for her width and her structure as well. She maybe isn't quite as attractive or bulky as well as in some of those other areas, but certainly another high quality female as we're trying to set the mold here for structure and volume that is real important here for longevity and brood sow potential.